Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Blue is the New White podcast. Today's guest is a fellow podcaster, tradesperson, truth speaker, and inspirer. Is that a word? I don't know. Either way, he inspires people. Jesus, or Jesse Hernandez, is a plumber by trade who is also the host of the popular podcast Learnins and Missteps. His journey starts in high school, where he was academically gifted. A smart guy who checked all the right boxes and was well on his way to a shiny new college education. Because of his high-energy attitude and inability to be comfortable behind a desk, a scholarship eluded him. But it was all okay because he found a great summer job in the trades to sock away some cash for room and board. Only one problem. He immediately fell head over heels in love with the job. It didn't take long before he made the decision to skip college altogether and pursue the trades full-time. And we should all be glad he did. Because starting as a plumber, he worked his way up the org chart, leading teams of people, instructing, and eventually into construction management and, you guessed it, podcasting. Listen in to hear his inspiring story of hard work, perseverance, and fulfillment. And more importantly, how you can achieve the same in the trades. As always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and on our website at blueisthenewwhite.com to receive all the latest updates. As always, this show's not monetized and we don't run ads. We rely strictly on word of mouth from our listeners to further the mission. So if you enjoy this episode, please take a second to rate it, review it, and share it with your friends. The future generations of tradespeople depend on it. They depend on you. So thank you again. And enjoy this episode of the Blue is the New White podcast with Jesse Hernandez. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Blue is the New White podcast. I have someone super cool on the show today, somebody who I've been following for a while and who I greatly admire because of the content that he puts out and the things that he has to say. Mr. Jesse Hernandez.
Yeah.
From Learnins and Missteps. Sir, welcome to the show.
Josh, thank you, man. I'm excited. We chatted a little bit, and when we were thinking about launching the podcast, I checked you out because I wanted to see what's out there. I don't want to step on any toes and maybe take some cheat codes. And I really appreciate the work you've been doing. It's having huge impact. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done, and I'm glad that we're on the same team.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate that, and it's always great to connect with fellow podcasters and advocates for our industry. You know that it always makes for great conversation and really helps, I feel, to push these skilled trades industries forward, which is essentially what we're all trying to do, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, man. So for those of my listeners that don't know who you are, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, kind of tell us, where you come from, how you got to where you are today, the story or the journey of Jesse.
Oh, man, this is a good one. Well, so I'm a salsa dancing, podcasting, second generation plumber. Watch out, baby. My dad's a plumber, and there's a few plumbers in the family. I started as a helper, maybe gopher. When I really wanted to be watching cartoons on Saturdays, I was out helping Dad. But Dad paid, so that was okay, right? Like, that was cool. And so early years were helping Dad out in residential repairs, little small jobs out there. And in high school, so I'm a nerd, like a closet nerd. School was pretty simple back in the day. And we were in this, for me and a bunch of our friends, we were in this magnet school and here in San Antonio, Texas, which is Tafoya Middle School is where we started. Tafoya Toros, shout out. And we were in a multilingual program. So we were learning the assumption was we knew two languages, English and Spanish. So we were learning a third language. I was studying Latin. We had Japanese and, all this cool stuff. This was back in, the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. And one of the deals was all the courses we had to take had to be college geared. So we could not take vocational courses in order to stay in the program, which was, I was seventh, sixth grader. Like, I didn't care. I didn't know the difference. Anyways, going on to high school, same thing. You know, the amazing thing was my friends we were competitive with regard to academics. You know, we'd show each other up, and I'm taking pre-cal. Oh, really? Well, I'm taking cal my junior year, and this sort of thing. And so that was a healthy thing, because it helped feed my curious nature. The challenge arose when I graduated from high school. I got a summer job working. Dad hooked it up, right? Dad was working for a commercial contractor here in town, and I needed a job to save up cash to pay for room and board. Now, my aspiration at that point was, for some reason, the Houston Astros forgot to call me. So I was trying to be a walk-on at Tyler Junior College, and I had enough Pell Grants or whatever to pay for tuition, but I didn't have the money to pay for room and board, and I did not have the athletic prowess to get a scholarship. So worked the summer to save up some money. That was the plan. I'm just going to save up a couple $1,000s so I could pay for room and board and whatever. And when I walked out on that job site, it was a commercial job. The first one I was on, it was a renovation of a large high school here in San Antonio. I knew that I was home. And what I mean by that is, in the classroom, though the studies and learning all the stuff was pretty easy, as long as I stayed focused, my challenge was my energy. Sitting down was not it still isn't an easy thing for me. Raising my hand and like this, it was most of the time it was going too slow. Like, okay, I got it. And I wasn't going to do homework, because in my head, homework's practice. If I understand the concept, why am I do it again? Like, come on. Now, math was a thing for me, and you know this, folks that are entering our industry, math, like, they do very high levels. They perform very high levels of math on the daily. And so math always kept me pretty engaged. The rest of the stuff, whatever. Anyhow, so I had a lot of discipline problems when I was in school, because I was disruptive and I was loud, and I needed attention. What I really needed was this sensory input. Like, I needed enough so that I could chill out and calm down. Walking on that job site, guess what? It's loud. There's all kinds of stuff going on. There's people the risk. We're working on heights. We're working in ditch, just everything. And then the physicality of the work was what I needed, right? I tried to play baseball. So athletics was a thing for me. And the hidden thing that wasn't apparent at the time, but the problem solving that our trade partners out there exercise every 5 minutes on figuring out how to repair something or how to install something, how to make everything fit in a super tiny space. That was enough to keep my mind engaged. So my brain was engaged, my body was engaged, my eyes, my ears, everything except for taste. I didn't go lick concrete or sheetrock. I didn't need that part.
Don't lie to us, Jesse. No, I'm just kidding. I do have a quick question though. So
yes,
you mentioned that you were a closet nerd. School was a little bit simple for you. It sounds like, with your energy and stuff like that, you weren't challenged enough in school. Is that a fair assumption?
That's fair.
Okay.
Yes.
So is it also fair to say that part of, and maybe you just haven't gotten here yet, but I'm super impatient, high energy like you.
Yep.
But I mean, is it fair to say that once you set foot on that job site and you got all of this sensory input that you needed, also able to use your academia, and stuff like that, that it presented a new challenge for you that, you
Yes.
maybe weren't familiar with?
Absolutely. Because I had to learn how to connect all of those things. I remember I worked luckily along my career, I've had the fortune of connecting with some amazing mentors, journeyman. I'm a plumber, that background. I was able to connect with some super cool journeymen. And don't get me wrong, there was a whole lot more jerk heads, but there were a few really great guys that invested in me and taught me things. And I remember he was teaching me how to figure a 45-degree offset. And in that moment, I said, oh my God, that's the Pythagorean theorem. Like in real life, it wasn't just some damn thing that I had to fill out a worksheet on. It was applicable all of a sudden. And so I had to learn whole new vocabulary. I had to learn the tools. I had to learn the systems. I had to learn the slang terminology that we use for the different fittings and all that other good stuff, and figure out how to do the work. So there was a tremendous amount of learning. And I think that's what it was, is there's even today, man, I've been in it since 95. There's just so much to learn. I mean, the technology evolves, systems change. There's just so much to learn. And now, the difference in what I do now versus what I did back then is, at the end of the day, when I was installing, I could turn around and look at what I accomplished. I could say, that's what I did. And thumbs up, it looks great, or thumbs down, I sucked it up today, I need to pick it up tomorrow. Now, the difference, the deal is people, right? As you migrate through the org chart of whatever organization you are in, you end up dealing with people more often. And if you think a mechanical room is complex, right? Yeah, just wait till you start dealing with like managing people and leading teams. Like, baby, that's some work.
Oh my goodness, I got goosebumps because I know exactly what you're talking about, my friend.
Yes.
Yeah. I have a question for you before we move on. So, in high school, you excelled in the academic portion of things, and so what was I'm curious what the expectation of a high school in Texas was, for somebody like you. Was college pushed on you? Is this something that was, hey, go this route, don't go this route? Speaking about the trades, or was it more, go this route? This one's here if you need it, kind of thing? Oh
yeah, no, it was absolutely, the message I received was go to college or flip burgers.
Yes,
those were the two options. You go to college or flip burgers. And I've thought a lot about that. I have a lot of friends that are in education, and there for a minute, I wanted to go into education. And I can't entirely fault the teachers, even though they were the ones delivering the message. But, the environment that they work in, they have to have a college degree to earn the living that they're earning. And the only path that they've experienced is through academia. So naturally, they're going to default to what they know and say, if you don't have a degree, you're not going to get anywhere. Now, that they don't need to say it that way, right? But naturally, they're going to give pronounced value on that degree. And so, they get a pass. Some of them do. Some of them, they just don't need to be in education.
I would agree with that because, at some point, all of us are a product of our environment, right? Of the environment we came up in. And so I think that there's a lot of weight to that, what you just said. And I don't talk about it often, on the show. I talk about, this general topic, but not that specific thing. But I think that, my listeners, I hope you're paying attention because, that was a very, very subtle but profound piece of insight, because it is true. It's not that these teachers don't want what's best for their students. It's that they may not know what's best.
Yes. Well said. But the message was go to college or flip burgers. And again, all of my friends, and we're still friends. Well, I think they're friends. I don't know if they think I'm their friend, but anyhow, most of them have degrees and they're working for the most part, utilizing their degrees and having great success. They're phenomenal contributors to the community. But I remember the first 2 years as a plumbing apprentice, really feeling like a failure. So it was this really funky conflict between loving what I did, enjoying the work, even though I was salt stained all the way down to my knees, coming home with, this was back before the silica requirements, but coming back with just concrete dust all packed in my ears and up my nostril, like work. I loved it, but I felt like a failure. I felt like I lost. And it wasn't until one day, this was back, some of our listeners may not know this. There was a day when we used to get our paychecks on paper and we had to go to the bank to cash them. You remember those days, Josh?
I do, actually. Yes, I do. Very, very well.
Oh, man. So I would go to the same bank every Friday because the foreman, his name was Johnny Martinez, and he was an amazing dude. Get my check, and I go to the bank to cash it. And there were these couple dudes about my age, dressed very nicely, like dressed the way I wanted to dress, hair all messed up because I was wearing a hard hat all day, just got out of work. And I peeked over their shoulder and saw their check because I would see them there every week also. I saw their check and I saw my check. I said, I ain't doing too bad. Like this is not bad. And I'm not, it was that and some other things that were happening in my life where I said, you know what? I'm going to do this. Like, this is where I feel it is the environment that I will best thrive in. And I'm going in. Like, hell with the haters. I'm going to do this. At this point, I was in an apprenticeship program for plumbing. And once I let go of that feeling of failure, it freed me up for all kinds of stuff. Now, I will say there is a tinge of I need to get a degree, right? Because I can. And then reality sets in, right? Because I could go register and take the last remaining classes I need to take, or I could slack off and take a nap. And the naps are easier.
So I have a question real quick before you move on. So that decision, I think that's a turning point that everybody comes to at some point, or I hope that everybody comes to. I have a ton of faith in people, right? And
Yes.
It's a position that we all hope that we're in, saying, hey, you know what? I love this. I'm going to make it work. But not all of us have the same feeling of failure, or when I'm listening to you, I'm thinking embarrassment by it, right?
Yes, that's a good. Yep.
Like you loved what you did, but you were almost embarrassed that you did it. So what was it? I mean, was it that specific moment that you were just like, all right, here's a light switch, or was this a struggle for you, kind of back and forth, coming to terms with the fact that, hey, I'm not doing too bad. Hey, I'm going to fully commit.
It was a struggle. It was not a light switch. That happened. Have you seen the movie Rounders?
Yeah, I love that movie.
Okay. If there was a switch moment, or it's probably more of a dial.
Okay.
We went,
all right,
that's fun. That moment when I saw them dudes, I saw their check. I'm like, oh, okay, this is I don't need to be as embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
Then I saw Rounders, and there's a scene where Matt Damon's talking to his mentor, who's a judge, and the judge, he tells him, look, man, my family wanted me to do XYZ. I was in love with the law, and I went this route. And Matt's like, well, how do you feel about that? He says, man, do what you're good at. Do what you love. And I swear, even now I'm saying it, I get chills because I felt like they were talking to me. And at the time, I was a third-year apprentice, and I set a target in my first year. Back then it was called the National Craft Olympics, and now it's probably Skilled USA or something. Yeah. I had set a target to be in the Craft Olympics by my third year of apprenticeship. And when that movie came out, it was in that same time frame. And I said, okay, yeah, I'm going to do this. And so then it was like, okay, I still had some of the embarrassment. That was a great way to capture that. Still had a little bit of embarrassment, especially when I was, out and meeting people. What do you do for a living? I'm a plumber. And then they look at me like, oh, this kind of like, oh, right. And I'm like, ooh, yeah. that wasn't great. So that tinge has always been there. Now I just I'm proud. I am a construction professional. I am a plumber. And if you can't see past, or if you really have no idea how amazing that is, I can help you understand how great it is. But if you ain't ready to listen, you're losing out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. Bottom line.
That is, and I think that's an important point too, that you made too, because you shouldn't be able to love something so much and feel like you're being judged because of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, assuming you're not doing something terrible, right?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
Morally, like, just traverse, but it's true. Like, you shouldn't, and I think that people put so much value on the opinions of others, especially when something like a college education is so ingrained into the society as this grand definition of success, and what can come of that college degree, and all of that. And it really hinders the industry itself, because you got to ask, how many people like you loved what they did so much, but let the embarrassment get to them to the point that they quit. Yes. And, they did something else. Maybe they went back to college. Maybe they got a job somewhere else. But either way, they're never as fulfilled as they would have been had they followed the path that they actually enjoyed.
100%. And that's the thing. People ask me, like, dude, why are you so passionate about this? So here's the thing, man, is yes, trades. Like, yes, I am 100% passionate about trades. I've had at one point in my career, I had the responsibility of acquiring manpower and assembling the teams for a business unit for every damn job we had in San Antonio. And it sucked. It was hard to find people. But underneath that, like, the foundation is this. I want to help people discover themselves. I want people to self-actualize. And people get to that point when they're in the right environment that nurtures their inherent gifts and talents. And the messaging out there does not include the trades as an option. And by default, people are being steered away from fertile ground to develop and become the greatest thing they'll ever be, which is themselves. They're losing themselves because of some twisted messaging out there and perception and all that other stuff. That's why I'm so damn passionate about it. And it's awesome. Like, the trades are sexy, man. Like, we got it going on over here.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? So first of all, you should be plumber / what am I trying to say? Philosopher. Plumber / philosopher. But I mean, there's a lot of truth behind that. And so that kind of leads me into the next thing, right? Where you and I, and probably a lot of the listeners of this show, and hopefully this is how we can educate some new listeners and people new to the industry, but it is sexy, right? We say all the time, we've got to make this industry sexy. Well, we don't have to make the industry sexy. The industry is sexy. We need to do a better job of marketing that, right?
Absolutely.
We need to do a better job as business owners and as counselors and as teachers and as parents to shed some light on it and let people know, what's sexy about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, all right, I want to make sure we're getting our timeline correct. So you got that job out of high school, that summer job, right? Save a few $1,000s. And I think we jumped ahead a little bit to your second and third year apprenticeship. What happened with that after high school and after your summer job? Did you save that $1,000? Did you go to college?
Oh yeah, I did skip that. No, I didn't. Ooh, that was rough. Yeah, I didn't go to college. Like, I worked that summer. Then in Johnny, who he was the foreman, he's like, here, man, he really invested in me. Like, he every damn week. He said, Jess, you need to come back with a brand new tool on Monday. And I'm like, you're not the boss of me, right? Like, you don't tell me what to do. So the first Monday I came back without a tool, and guess what? He sent me home. I said, ooh. So I went to Home Depot and hit the 99-cent bin, bought me a cheap tool, said, got a tool. And he would laugh like, okay, dummy, you malicious compliance, right? Eventually the tools would break and I needed to buy more and more expensive tools. So that was like ninja skills, right? He made me fill out a paper, and I didn't know what it was. I'm like, okay, I just filled it out. So it was an application to the state of Texas to become a registered apprentice. And because we were on some publicly funded work, once I got that apprenticeship, it qualified me for a pay raise. And back then, I went from $6.50 an hour, classified as a laborer, to $13.72 an hour.
Whoa. Whoa. And I want to put that into context too, because some people might be listening saying, well, $13 an hour ain't shit, but what you just said is 100% pay raise.
Yep.
I mean, that's huge. That's huge. Put that into today's terms, right? And holy cow.
Yeah, it was enormous. And I'm like, I'm going to be a baller. I'm like, this is it. And again, got further into it. He taught me how to read blueprints. Like, he taught me so much. Like, oh my, and I remember asking him, like, Johnny, I'm looking at my peers and they're all 20 years older than me. I'm 18 at this point, and they're helpers or apprentices. Like, do I have to be a helper for 20 years? Like, they're your age. Like, how does that work? He's like, no, dude. He's like, you don't want to do that. You can, but he guided me towards getting in that apprenticeship program. He's like, if you're going to do this, that's what you need to do. You need to find an apprenticeship program so that you can learn all the behind the scenes stuff. It'll equip you to grow and serve it with under more responsibility. I said, okay, cool. I'm going to do that. And the summer came and I already knew, like, I'm not going to go to school. This is what I'm going to do. But I hadn't told Dad yet. And so I finally had to tell Dad, like, Dad, I'm not going. And I remember, man, that was a rough time. It was a rough, one of the roughest messages I ever had to deliver, because he was not angry. He looked defeated. And I just like, whoa, like, what's the big deal? And he's a plumber. She's like, mijo, I feel like I'm to blame because I let you down, because you're going to end up doing what I've done all my life, and I didn't want that for you. And I think, we all have this situation, like, yeah, but you're like my hero, bro. Like, what do you mean? Yeah, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So that was really tough. And, he struggled reading. He struggled in school. He dropped out of high school. And for him, what he saw was my brother and I performed very well academically. So like, y'all can go and do whatever you want. Don't do what I'm doing. And so that was tough, but I did it. He's like, okay, you're 18 years old and I know how much money you make, so you're paying all your stuff anyways.
Yeah. Well, let's pause right there for a second too, because this is the second thing. We talked about the embarrassment by society, and things like that, but this is also another hard conversation sometimes with parents, right? And I'm talking about parents both in and out of the trades, and I've got my feelings on both, but parents outside of the trades don't know much about them, right? And so when a student or one of their children comes to them and says, hey, I don't want to go to college, I want to go to trade school, or maybe I want to be an apprentice or whatever, the fear of the unknown kicks in, right? And now all of a sudden it's like, well, what did I do wrong? How did we, what did we do this? But then you have the flip side, and then you have the parents that were in the trades. And let's be realistic. The trades in the 50s and the 60s are different than the trades in the 2000s.
Oh yeah.
And additionally too, I just talked about this, I think it was last week. There was a point in time, and you might remember this, I think it trickled into my high school years a little bit too, but like, industrial arts in high school, right? And that eventually evolved into shop class and things like that. But there was a point in time where a specific type of person went into the industrial arts.
Mm-hmm.
It's the person that maybe was really good with their hands, but they struggled with academics, they struggled with with reading and writing and stuff like that. But they were labeled. They were clearly
Yes.
labeled. Hey, and this is how it comes off. Hey, you're a dummy. So
Mm-hmm.
you're going to go into the industrial arts. You're going to go into shop class, and that's going to be your route. But it's because you can't do anything else. And that has such an impact on what we're seeing today, and especially the previous generation when they're trying to do what's best for their children, right? Because this stigma is now attached to them. It's
Yes.
ingrained in them, and that's what they know, and that's how they felt. That embarrassment, that carried with them. That carried
Yep.
with them that whole time, and that's hard, and that's a hard thing to get past. And so as you're telling me this story, I'm just, and I could be completely off base on everything.
No, you got it. You're dead on.
But I mean, that's kind of what I'm hearing. So I didn't mean to interrupt. I wanted to point that out for the listeners, and kind of elaborate on it a little bit. But so your dad, he eventually came around.
He eventually came around. It was very short, right? He was disappointed or maybe defeated, and like the next day or 2 days, like, okay, well, we got to go to work. This is life. Let's go. We were working on the same job site. We did not work together because for some reason, sometime between 15 and 25 years old, my dad was really dumb. And then like now he's a genius. So I don't know how that happened, but that's what happened. So we didn't work well together. So, I always worked with somebody else. And then eventually I left that company because of the apprenticeship program. I needed to work with the company that would sponsor my apprenticeship. And so I went out and found me one and did the deal. And that took us up into my apprenticeship. Went to the Craft Olympics in Maui. So,
Maui.
That's
all right.
That's what we do.
It's all coming together now, Jesse. I understand.
Yes. It was the year I qualified. It was in Maui. And mind you, I'm this skinny little troublemaking plumber or apprentice from the south side of San Antonio. And I'm going to Maui. Like, that's a big deal in Jesse land. That's far-fetched dream. So went to compete and I failed. I was given third place because of my ego. So this was back when I smoked, right? Because smoking was cool. Cigarettes, by the way.
Just to clarify.
And to be clear. And I was watching all the other folks competing. So there were apprentices from across the country. We all had the same module to build out. And I'm building the thing. And I could see that I'm ahead of them. And like the written exam, I knew I had that. That was, easy. And so I said, I'm going to go take a smoke break. I went because I had to go all the way downstairs and whatever, smoked the cigarette, came back, lunch break. I'm way ahead of people. Take my time at lunch, take a little longer, come back up, do a little bit more, and then I go take another smoke break. And when I came back, I was set up. All I had to do was finish soldering up my copper system so that they can test it. Well, I accidentally dropped a 90, a little half-inch copper 90, and stepped on it and egged it. Oh, so I have my little clock up there. I'm watching time like, oh my God, I got like 12 minutes. And I could not get that damn 90 back to shape. And you were it was cool because you couldn't get more material. So when you submitted your material list, it was last and final. I didn't have an extra 90. So here I am trying to wallow it out and finally got it together, start soldering, and I had one piece left to solder to get so that they could, it was a female adapter, so they could hook up the nitrogen and pressurize it. And they blew the horn. And in my head, I lost. Like, I ran cross country, I ran track. If you don't cross the finish line, you lose.
Yeah.
So, there was a lot of beer drinking that night because I was upset with myself. because it was all ego.
Yeah.
Here I am patting myself on the back before I crossed the damn finish line. And then the next day they had the big thing right in the evening. It was amazing. I mean, we had motivational speakers, whole conference center rent. Like, it was the grandest experience I had in my life at that point for a bunch of construction workers, right? Like, that reinforced, okay, I'm doing the right thing. Like, this is where I belong. And they start calling out the winners, and they call my name. I'm like, oh, like, how does that happen? So I got third, I got a bronze medal, got a check. And that was an amazing experience. It was a goal. I went to compete, and then that this ends up being a theme through the rest of my life. My ego gets in the way of things.
So that's the lesson. That's what you took away, because I'm a big proponent that failure is the best teacher, right?
Absolutely.
And so you always, my dad said it best, right? It's success rate is 100% so long as you never give up. But with regard to failure, it really, as long as you take something away, it can only be considered a lesson, right? You can take that failure off the table, and it's a lesson. So whenever anybody says, I didn't succeed at this, or I failed at this, I have to know what that lesson is, because if I can learn any lessons by somebody else's failure, that means I don't have to do it myself.
Yes.
And so the lesson here, and maybe you can elaborate on this a little bit, but don't let ego get in the way.
Yes.
Okay.
Don't let ego get in the way. You don't celebrate till you pass the finish line. You remember Leon Lett, right? He was dancing before he got into the end zone and blew it. It's that, like, a lot of us will have the opportunity to be recognized and show out and display our skills. That doesn't mean you're above everything. It's actually a responsibility, and carry yourself appropriately. And at that time in my life, I didn't know that. So it was all about me. I kept the little plaque as a reminder about how my ego will get in the way. And it's never really gone away. It really takes intentional reflection to get over myself and understand that I'm here to serve others, not me. And so I got to go back to that every single day.
Yeah. And it's good. I mean, that's so good too, because sometimes you need that reminder. We all do. And because it is easy, right? It's almost it's part of human nature, and you have to be able to reel yourself back in. You got to keep yourself grounded, and remind yourself why you're doing what you're doing, and how to best accomplish that.
Yes, sir.
Wow, that's amazing. So you did that. You came back. Then what led you to what you're doing now?
Oh, wow. So I'm going to fast forward here. I got my journeyman license, got my medical gas endorsement, got my master's license. And I think the company I worked for TD Industries, so they're a mechanical contractor here in Texas.
TDI, yeah. They're out here too.
Yes. And instead of firing me, they decided to torture me and promote me throughout those 17 years. And I got to, the foreman level, superintendent, general superintendent, those things. And I got to a point in my career where I really didn't like the job. I had responsibility. I was getting paid fabulously, but the job was no longer fulfilling. Nobody ever called me to say, hey, you did good today. The only time my phone rang was when people were calling to chew me out and yell at, man, what is going on? The only time my phone rang is when people were calling to chew me out and tell me how miserable I was. And it was like repeat. Oh, every job was the same. Every now and then it was cool. So I didn't want to do it anymore. but I had established a lifestyle that required me to maintain that income. And so, quick math said, all right, Jess, pay off your debt so that you could do something meaningful. The time came where I actually paid off my debt. And then it was like, put up or shut up, right? What are you going to do? And I was part of this. I have a baby brother, Renee, who's my co-host on our podcast. He's 18 years younger than me. So he was in this program. Since he was a little guy, he was dead set on being a paleontologist. So I was going to support that because that's what he wanted to do. So I got really involved with his academic career when he was in 7th grade and all the way throughout. And which ended up me volunteering with the local school district, which I'm still connected to. And there was this parent development deal. I think it was called like Family Leadership Academy. And because I live in a low income neighborhood, I haven't left my community because I feel responsible to my community. And what we were doing, that the whole program, what it was designed to do was give the parents, upskill parents so that they can have greater comfort in communicating with administration so they could advocate for their kids. Like, I'm down with that, even though, I'm a plumber and not all must have a degree. I'm down for parents figuring out how to advocate for their kids because it's those skills that make people successful, right?
Yep.
Anyhow, there was this thing where I was a panel or a judge of the parents doing a presentation, so building their public speaking skills. And at the end of it, they asked each of the parents, have you been involved with your kids' education? Why or why not, right? Have you been this involved? And they gave their answers. And one of the mothers, Miss Dora, she answered, she's like, no, I didn't do it with my first kid. Things didn't work out the way I wanted them to. And then she pointed right at me and she says, but I was at the parent summit and I heard you tell your story of how you got all up in the middle of Renee's business. And I'm going to do the same thing. I mean, of course, I'm paraphrasing, but I was in tears. Like, I never affected somebody that way. Like, I would never have, I couldn't have written that. So I came home and I'm like, okay, like, this is something. And the gal I was dating at the time, she's an amazing person. I called her up and I'm like, hey, she's like, how'd it go? I was like, it was great. And I told her what happened. I said, well, like, I know I can't do my job anymore. And she's like, oh, damn. I'm like, yeah, because she knew that's the way I am. Like, okay, got to do something else. So I found a job with the school district, and it was like 33% of what I was earning, but I didn't have any debt, and it was meaningful work. I was going to be connecting the local community, parents, business, campus, students. And if you can't tell, I could talk, right? So I'm like, yeah, I could do that. And the organization, or TD, who I was with at the time, they said, hold on, don't do that. We stay. What if we let you be our trainer? And I said, what am I going to train on? They said, well, you're already doing it. Yeah, I was doing it at the bar and on the weekends with the guys, just kind of teaching them the tips and tricks that I learned of, how do I translate our budget and financial reports into actionable plans so that we can achieve budget and stuff like this. So I said, wow, that sounds amazing. So I started doing that and put together a training program to transition folks from installer to foreman and from foreman to superintendent, because we didn't have that at the time. You sink or swim.
Yep.
Right. As soon as you got really good at something, you got promoted and you sucked again. And that's not fun. Right. So I didn't want to force people to go through that. So we put that together. And so I just started discovering these other things, these other skills that I had, motivators that drove me. And it really started shifting towards developing people. Then along the way, I got introduced to lean and last planner system. And that really spoke to me because it helped optimize work and make more money, right? Fewer people, more money, safer, more fun. That led to me teaching some classes here in San Antonio for AGC, Associated General Contractors, for the CM Lean certifications. which put me in front of general contractors. And that led to me working for a large general contractor as a regional lean manager. And my responsibility there was to support a team of folks across the central United States, amazing team, the Lean Beast, shout out Central Region Lean Beast. And to continue developing my learning and understanding and help people or help the organization in the transformation of becoming a lean organization, problem solving, building the capabilities of our people. That's what I got to do. And traveling all the time. And again, when I think back, when I graduated in 1995, started working as an apprentice, how I got here, it doesn't make sense. So you can't, right? There's no map except for doing what I knew in my bones, what was right. Bottom line, had I not done that, I would never have connected with the people that I've connected with. I would never have served and impacted people to the degree that I have. And all the other peripheral benefits, right? The traveling and all the fun stuff. There's no doubt in my mind, I would not have realized it had I not committed to a career in the industry.
Unbelievable. Unreal. And I love stories like that. You answered the question before I could ask it, but I love asking people, when you first set foot on that job site back when, right after high school, did you ever think that it would lead to the kind of fulfillment that you have today? And the answer is always the same, Jesse.
Yeah.
Hell no.
Hell no.
Hell no.
Hell no.
And it's amazing. And that, I think, that's the whole reason I do the show. That's the whole reason I wrote the book. That's the whole reason that, I'm an advocate for these industries, because people don't know and people have to, and it's so important. In my book and in the podcast, and I think even on this podcast that we did, I like to talk a little bit about success, right? And how success is defined by, society as a college education, a college degree, a white collar job, and that's like the baseline, right? That's the average definition of success. But the trades allow people to live by their definition of success. Not only because of what they are and not only because of what they provide, but, the opportunities that people don't know about that exist in the industry, the different trajectories that everybody is blind to these days. And it's amazing. So, Jesse, if I were to ask you today what your definition of success is personally, what would you say?
Yeah, my definition of success is sharing the gifts and talents that I've been blessed with every person that is in front of me. When I'm doing that, that is success.
Unbelievable, and again, it brings us full circle back to people, right? And being able to influence people for the better. I mean, just amazing. So, Jesse, we've been talking for almost an hour now, believe it or not. So I don't want to keep my listeners anymore. But I really, really appreciate you coming on the show. Before we jump off, why don't you tell people where they can find you, where they can find your podcast, all that good stuff.
Oh, Josh, I appreciate that opportunity because I know you're rolling deep with your people.
I try.
LinkedIn is my favorite place to frequent. I think Jesse Hernandez, that you can find me there. Our website, which is Learnins and Missteps, properly spelled, because I tried to be cute and misspell it, and that was not fun for anybody but me. So Learnins and Missteps, hit up the website, and you can find links to all our stuff and get all the episodes from any platform. We're just trying to get the word out. So yeah, hit us up. I'd love it. Give us a comment. Give us some critical feedback. I'd love to interact with your people. I really would. Thank you for that.
Awesome. Jesse, thank you for coming on the show today and sharing all your valuable insight with my audience. And I really appreciate everything you had to say, man.
Thank you, sir.